Hey guys, welcome to the current wave. This is Candace Eden. I am yet again late today, but amen. Good problems. A lot of things picking up outside of the ministry aspect as well. So my schedule's kind of been a little funky. So trying to get back acclimated and making sure that I am still staying consistent with the things that the Lord has told me to make sure I'm consistent with. This being one of them. So this is going to be actually a very short current wave episode. I have been wanting to talk a little bit about some of this. It's going to make it really long if I get into every area, but I am going to mention these areas that do need to be discussed. But the only one I'm going to actually show you for you guys to kind of be chewing on for a bit is going to be in reference to children. Now, as you guys may have seen, you have seen an uptick in what I call and what many others may call sexy Christianity, which should not even be a thing. It's oxymoronic to even say that, but here we are in 2023 having to have this conversation. But I'm not necessarily going into detail about that today. What I do want to bring to your attention is a few things that were brought to my attention this past week. I've spoken about the children. I've spoken about the agenda against the youth. I've spoken about the enemy's very targeted plan towards the generations now and the generations that are coming up. Because, contrary to popular belief, our enemy is not an idiot. He overplays his hand. Absolutely. He does a lot of foolish things as if he could be victorious. But one thing he is not is stupid. And it would be a huge error for the body of Christ to treat the enemy as if he's stupid. He's not. So, with that being said, children. So, for a long time, the Lord has been showing people that there has been an assault and an attack against our youth, against the kids coming up. We see it ramping up every year. It seems to get more intense, where we see less and less of the children, of the youth. And when I say the youth, I'm talking about 18 and under. We see more and more of an apathy towards the things of God. We see less and less of youth actually wanting to come to church, which, mind you, growing up, if I'm being honest, none of us just wanted to go to church. We went to church because we had to. Your parents went to church, you're going to church. You ain't got no choice. It ain't, do you feel like going to church today? You getting up, you going to church. And God forbid, if your parents were in ministry, you was in church every other day, if not every day. And you better be there with a smile on your face. And there wasn't no iPads and phones and devices that you were going to be on. You was going to be there and you was going to be present, or you was going to catch the shoe when you get home, huh? But there was still somewhat of a reverence for the things of God, even coming up. And I was maybe in my generation and the generations before me. But what we're seeing now is a blatant disregard and an irreverent approach when it comes to the church. And I know we are the church, and I'm just saying the things that are supposed to be considered holy. I'm going to say that in that regard, in reference to anything having to do with the Lord, we're seeing a very irreverent approach. I mean, I saw the other day on this TikTok, there's a guy, and it's comedy. It's comedic, so it gets you laughing and it gets you kind of out of this. Well, hold on now, let's be careful. He does a series of these skits where he's in heaven. I don't remember his name. He's in heaven and he's talking to God as if God, not only as if God is like just this human person or whatever, just human, but talking to God like God owes him explanations and God needs to answer to him for certain things. And just some of the things, the skits that he's come up with, again, they're funny, but it was really irreverent. It's kind of makes you kind of uncomfortable, because you're like, we are talking about God. We ain't talking about your homeboy. We're not talking about even your dad. We're talking about God. So we want to be very careful that we're not getting too comfortable in our desire to make the faith relevant and funny in order to get likes and subscribers and fans and things of that nature, and forgetting that we are talking about a holy God. We're not talking about someone that we just dapping up, you know what I'm saying? And we're like, you know what I'm saying, homie, you like, you my homie type thing, yeah, we got to mature past that. Now, hear me. People coming into the faith who may have no idea of who the Lord is, who don't have that history, who don't have that legacy of growing up being taught about the things of the Lord, being taught about holiness and things like that. Yeah, I don't expect you to come in automatically revering the Lord in a certain way, unless, of course, you've had an encounter with the Lord that shifts you completely. However, as we mature, prayerfully, you should be being transformed, and you start to realize that we're talking about a resplendent, majestic Lord, and we honor him in that way. We speak of him in that way, even when we're doing our skits and we're doing comedy and we're doing things to bring people into awareness of the Lord. We're not being irreverent in it just for the sake of relevancy in culture. And so, again, I talked about sexy Christianity a little bit on my page, my Facebook page. I posted and written a bit about it, but I'm not really going to talk about that today. What I do want to bring to your attention very quickly today before I jump off of here is we're talking about the continued assault on the children. What many of you don't realize, that much of what's happening before you is not actually what's happening in reality. Much of what you're being shown in your media, if I would say a good 98%, if not 99% of what you're being shown in the media is in actuality not what's actually happening. That's actually not the thing to be focused on. More often than not, and I would say in the vast majority of cases, you're being shown something to get your mind distracted off of what's actually happening in other arenas, which is why you have things like these Epstein logs that, and what's happening with them being able to kind of go under the radar somewhat. What you have things like what's happening with the trans movement and different motions that are being put into law, guys. And even some of these have already been put into law. You just don't know about it. But things that are being put into law in reference to trans rights and the LGBTQ community, and what's considered abuse, and and when it comes to children, and what's not considered abuse. I don't know if you guys know, but they have been lobbying for some time about adding a P to the acronym, which is pedophilia, or a minor attracted persons, meaning that it would be legal for them to be attracted to minors and to act upon those attractions by law, because they just identify as someone who is attracted to a minor. And so you see, this move towards children being allowed to explore their sexuality and being able to change or start the process of surgically changing their sex. You see this erasure, or this move towards erasure of male and female, which is the image of the Lord that the Lord created in Genesis. You see this constant push towards gender neutrality. I have a family member who actually was trying to get me to not dress my daughter in certain clothes that are considered girly or feminine, not put pink on her, just let her choose for herself. Yeah, no, we're not doing that. She's a female. The Lord gave her ovaries. She will grow into breasts. She will grow into being able to carry children. She has a womb. She was made specifically. She produces a certain amount of blood in her body that males aren't able to produce when it's time for them to give birth. There are certain things that only happen in a female that don't happen in a male, and there are certain things that only happen in a male that do not happen in a female. And this is by design. This is by intelligent design of the Lord, the Creator, Elohim. And there's no getting around that. Even if you have surgeries to remove or add organs that weren't there originally, even if you have a false or a womb trans uh, what was it called, transplanted, which that's a thing now. Even if you take hormones to cause you to grow hair in places that you normally wouldn't grow hair as a woman, or if you have to take hormones to cause you to stop growing hair as a male who's wanting to be identified as a woman. No matter what, your choice of shifting your sex, in the eyes of the Lord, He created you specifically to be either male or female, just like in marriage. In the eyes of the Lord, the marriage He recognizes and honors are the marriages that He ordained between male and female, not male and male, not female and female, not trans male and female, or trans female and male, however that works. That is not the plan, or honorable to the Lord. And the Lord does not look upon that with pleasure. And the Lord actually despises this because it is opposite and anti His design. So it's anti-Christ in nature. In inception, it is against the Lord. It is against His very design for your life. And it's a lie of the enemy. And for many, and I'm getting to the children, for many, this has happened due to maybe trauma that has happened in their lives. This also happens generationally. If you have things in your bloodline that have passed down through the generations that haven't been disrupted and broken and off of your bloodline, you could have things that flow down into your life that maybe it makes you feel like you were born a certain way, because well, I didn't have any trauma, I didn't have this happen to me, so why do I feel this way, why do I feel weird? Could very well be because it was a part of your bloodline that has come down. Generational curses are a thing, generational blessings are a thing. And the Bible also talks about the sins of the father visiting the sins of the children, back to 7 generations. I think I said that backwards. But so it's a real thing. And also there's so many influences that we have now, even more than when I was a kid, even more than when my mom was a kid, and so forth. The further we go in the timeline, the more access to distraction, the more access to perversions, the more access to things that are anti the Lord in nature we get access to. And the younger the target is. So the enemy knows, and even, the body of Christ knows that. And this is why many target the children, even in the church. They will put things together to make sure to draw in the church, draw in the children, because they know if they can, a lot of times, and this is just being transparent, for the pure hearted ones who are drawing the children, it's truly because they know that we are literally very close to having a generation that does not know the Lord at all, if we don't capture them now, if we don't snatch them out of the hands of the enemy now. And for others where the intent is not as pure, it's they're drawing and they're pandering to the children, because they know if they can get the kids to fall in love with the church and the relevancy and the cool stuff happening at church, and their parents, who are the ones with the money, who will tithe and who will pay, their parents and their families will come and remain. So there you have that happening, unfortunately. But there are pure ministries out there who are truly reaching out and wanting to really shift the generations to come for the glory of the Lord. And so the enemy, he perverts everything. So he understands as well, if he can get the youth to be perverted, if he can get the youth to have no clue who they are, if he can get the youth broken and discouraged and suicidal, which we see anxiety and suicide and depression at an all-time high, even amongst the church, and it's been made the norm. To say you have anxiety, it's just like, oh, okay, you got anxiety, okay, cool. It's like a part of your person, your nature, when that was never the nature that the Lord designed for you. But if he can get you and get the kids into these normalized perversions, then he knows that he successfully will be able to usher in his agenda, into control, his agenda into keeping people, as many people, in bondage, and killing, stealing, and destroying without much resistance. As long as he has children that are growing up with parents who are still serving the Lord and teaching them how to serve the Lord, there's a chance for him to be resisted in his plan. as long as there are children who are still discovering that, hey, I was created for a purpose and the Lord made me for such a time as this, and they're discovering the truth of who the Lord is and who they are in Him, then that is a snag in His plan for control of the Lord's creation. And so he's smart enough to know that he's got to capture the kids. He can capture my generation, he can capture the generation before me, and that's one thing. But the ones coming up, not only that, they're the ones that are shaping the earth as they grow and as they learn. They're going to be the ones with make creating careers. They're going to be the ones creating culture. They're going to be the ones that are going to be multiplying as they become parents. And so it's a multi-layered assault against the children. Not only that, he loves the innocence of the children, which, mind you, biblically speaking, none of us are innocent. Doesn't matter if you're a baby that was just born an hour ago. You are not innocent. You were born into sin. And so, but the Lord still recognizes you as an innocent, if you will. So there's layers to that. But he loves the innocence of the children because they're more easy to mold into his servitude. They're more easy to become one with his plans and agenda. So if he can capture them early at specific ages, he's got us down to a science. If he can, you can ask anyone who has been delivered from satanic ritual abuse, who have been delivered from mind control programming, who have been delivered from the occult, who have seen these baby farms that exist. And the enemy knows that the way the brain is shaped and the way the soul is placed within us, if he can get to children by certain ages. So I think one of the ages is by 3 years old. Well, I'm sorry, the first few months of life. And then there's another age where there's a certain development that happens if he can impart trauma and different things by 3 years old. And then there's a 13 year, there's different ages that you can hit where you're most impactful in terms of your brain development and in terms of even how your soul is impacted. And the enemy knows this. Many of us don't. But he knows if he can get to those at these ages, that there's a stronger and higher chances of them remaining in bondage to him. And so I saw recently there was a man. I'm going to play this for you. There's a man who was he was outside of, I believe it was where was he? Hold on. He was admonishing parents to pray for their children. I believe they were in Minnesota. They were outside of, I think it was, where were they at? Hold on. They were at the Capitol, and there was a vote that was going in reference to children being able to be taken from their parents if they were not affirming them in their desire to change their gender. And so if parents were resisting this, or if parents were, not in support of it, then by law, they are voting for these children to be taken from their parents and taken to a place that's considered a refuge. The state itself was going to be considered a refuge state for trans identifying people, to include minors, to include children. So the children would not have to necessarily get permission, in a sense, from parents to make these gender reversing or assigning medical decisions. They didn't have to inform their parents about it. And on top of that, if their parents were not agreeing to this, to wanting to start taking hormones, or them wanting to change their sex for whatever reason, or thinking about it, or anything in that regard, then at that point, they would be considering that home environment to be unsafe for the child. They would be considering it to be a volatile situation or abusive to the child, because the parents was not in agreement to this. And because of that, it would give them the rights to remove the child from the home. And I was like, my God. So it's begun already. And many of these laws, again, many of you guys don't know, but there are many laws that are actually already in place that will blow your mind that it even went through. And it's because it went into place because we were distracted with what they're showing you in the media. They didn't want you to know that these things that are completely asinine, that we would have never been okay with, were being voted into effect, and we're going to see those effects come into play in a very near future. People a lot of times are going to say, well, they'll never let that happen. That can happen. And I'm here to tell you, it's already in place legally for it to happen. They're following a plan, an agenda to have certain things in place by certain years. And because these laws are being put into place, as well as patents for different things being put into place, it will make it legal for them to be able to put things that we thought would never be able to go by, that would never wash in a moral society. You know what I'm saying? Those things will already have been put into law, and they will stand on these things when they start implementing foolishness. And so I'm going to show you this clip of this guy. It was he was admonishing parents to pray. I'm going to share my screen really quickly and let you guys watch that. Bear with me here. Let me turn up the volume.
House right now. We call it the kidnapping bill. Why? Because it is giving the state the right to kidnap kids when parents don't agree with gender affirming care. This is happening not only here in Minnesota, but it's happening across the nation. It's infecting our nation, and I encourage you, be in prayer about this. It matters, and it is dangerous not only to the future of our nation, but to the spiritual health of our nation and our families. Be in prayer about this. God bless. Everybody, it's Jason Yates, and I am in St. Paul, Minnesota at the Capitol. There's a whole bunch of parents here, a whole bunch of kids here, a whole bunch of families here opposing a vote that's taking place on at the House right now. We call it the kidnapping bill. Why? Because it is giving the state the right to kidnap kids when parents don't agree with gender affirming care. This is happening not only here in Minnesota, but it's happening across the nation. It's infecting our nation, and I encourage you, be in prayer about this. It matters, and it is dangerous not only to the future of our nation, but to the spiritual health of our nation and our families. Be in prayer about this. God bless.
And I'm going to show you another clip real quick so you can see the bill. So if you look up Minnesota Bill HF-146, it'll show you the details. Now, upon first glance, like, you have to actually read it. Upon first glance, it's not going to look like it's saying much of anything in reference to what he's talking about, but you got to actually read through the whole thing, which most folks ain't going to do that. They know that. But there was a section 518D.204. And I got a screenshot of that real quick. I'm going to show y'all. Actually, I thought I was going to show y'all. Give me a second here. I want to pull that up so you can see it, because it shows. What I'm going to do is I'm going to type it into Google real quick, and I'll let y'all look at that. All right, give me a second here. I apologize, y'all. I thought I had this pulled up, this screenshot already, but I didn't. So I want to make sure y'all can see it. And you can also look this up for yourself. I'm just opening it up for you. $204. go down. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the exact part where it's saying the part about the gender affirming care. It was okay. I'm gonna have to share it this way. Give me a moment. Let me open this up for you. And let me share my screen if it will let me. It does not let me share my screen, y'all. Hold on. I'm going to get this for you guys. Let me do this. Here we go. It keeps kicking me out of this one. I don't want you. I don't want this. I want it doesn't want to allow me to share the screen. Okay, so I'm going to read it to you guys what it says. So what it says, it's, as I mentioned, it's HF 146. A parent saying no to a child's sex change is equated to child abuse and child abandonment in a new Minnesota child transgender bill, which is HF 146. In each case, the state may intervene and assume custody of the child against the parent's will. This bill, you can actually go to house.mn.gov/bills/info/HF146 to find it. And you have to kind of go through the bill again and look at the sections. This was section, what I just read was 518D .204. So 518D like dog .204, temporary emergency jurisdiction. This was recently, and it says a court of this state has temporary emergency jurisdiction if the child is present in this state, the child has been abandoned, or it is necessary in an emergency to protect the child because the child or a sibling or parent of the child is subjected to or threatened with mistreatment or abuse. Sure, that makes sense. If the child is being threatened, yes, they should be removed from the home. But then hear this, it says, or the child has been unable to obtain gender health care as defined in section 543.23, paragraph B. And so when you go into more detail on what gender affirming healthcare means, that essentially means that if the child, like your 8-year-old says, hey, mommy, your little girl says, I think I'm a boy. I want to start hormones. I want to start taking medicines to become a little boy, or I want to start wearing clothes like a little boy because I think I'm a boy and I want to change my name to Timmy and all these other things. If you, as the parents, in wisdom, whether you're a believer or not, but this should really be alarming to believers, but just as a parent, if you hear your child saying that and you're wanting them as an 8-year-old to develop more into understanding of who they are and their emotions and, develop, mature more, and you're like, well, let's just wait, and your child is like, no, I want to do this is how I feel. If you are kind of pushing back against this, just in wisdom towards your child, mind you, they're not showing you those who have started this journey, who are miserable, who are killing themselves because they're in pain, severe agony, day in and day night, day in and day out, taking so much medication, pretty much enslaved to their doctors because they can't get any relief after having these procedures that their bodies never should have underwent. Anywho, if you decide, hey, let's just wait a little bit on this, let's just think about it, let's not make any moves right now. If your child decides that they don't want to be okay with that, then you at that point have become a threat by law. According to this bill, you have become a threat to your child, and it's considered abuse and neglect, and they can then come in and take your child and take emergency custody of your child as if you've abused your child in some manner. And so why is this alarming to you? Again, it's again the overreach of the geo them folks. Um, um, Coming in and making decisions for your children, making decisions for you and your parenting. Yes, some of this needs to be in place because there are those who don't know how to parent well. There are those who are abusive. There are parents who grossly harm their children. So absolutely things do need to be in place. Protocols and measures do need to be in place. However, when we're talking about changing your entire being, you're talking about changing your entire sex, if you're talking about changing your very construct of your who you are, and having valid, even just scientific information about why this is not okay and why this is not working, why these efforts to make this okay in reality are causing such damage psychologically to these poor people who have been deceived by the enemy into thinking this is the way. Emotional damage, the physical damage to their bodies. I have watched countless people who have been trying to get it out there for people to know, this is the reality of what happens after you have a gender, they call it a GAS, a gender assigning surgery or procedure. First of all, it's not just one procedure. You have to have multiple procedures. The likelihood of that procedure resulting in what you want is very low. Not to mention the additional impact that happens in your body because you're telling your body, you're wrong. This is what I need to put inside of you. And your body, as it should, is recognizing the things that are being put into you and as an enemy, and it's attacking the things that are being placed inside of you. Anyone who's had a transplant, who just wants to live, like a kidney transplant, heart transplant, one of the biggest concerns is that the body will reject the transplant. Why? Because your body was made with intelligence. Your body was made with a specific DNA. Your body was made with a specific purpose, with a specific lineage. Your body was made with specific chromosomes. Your body was made with specific everything. Nothing was by happenstance. There's no Big Bang theory that happened in your body. It was intentional. And so when you're introducing anything foreign, even if it's to save your life, I'm just talking about medically speaking with for your health to live, like kidney transplant for those who are on dialysis and they need a kidney to live, heart transplants, any kind of transplant to help save your life. Your body can still resist these things because they didn't come originally in your body already, because the Lord intended these items for your body. But due to sin and the world that we live in, there's all kind of ailments, there's illnesses, there's disease, there's all kind of things that come in and mess up the perfect plan of the Lord. And so we have these medical treatments and inventions to help prolong life when we're catching the result of living in a world that has illness and disease in it. However, your body is recognizing this is foreign. This doesn't belong to me. This is not what was originated for me before birth. This is not what was knit into me. And so it naturally is going to reject it as an enemy, even though this item was put inside of me to save my very life. And so people have to take take medicine. I don't know if they take it for life, but they have to take medicine. And it's really important for them to take it so that their body does not resist the transplant. If they resist the transplant, then it's a whole nother heap of issues. And so let's shift over to be adding things to our bodies to change our sex. All the things that go into hormones, all the things that go into what makes me a woman, all the things that go into what makes someone else a man. You are essentially telling your body, All of these things are wrong, and I'm resisting you. And so I'm trying to resist you by changing a few physical aspects of my being to make me feel better about this deception in my head. But your body is saying, yeah, no, you can't add this hormone to me because this doesn't belong in this body. This belongs in this body that was created to produce this, or this belongs in this body that was created to produce this many units of blood, this type of bone structure. This supports this type of hormone. This does not support this, or this is foreign. So your body naturally is forever going to try to reject it because it recognizes it as a foreign antibody, as a foreign a foreign thing. Essentially, it recognizes it as a dis-ease. So your body will forever be in dis-ease while you're trying to shift your sex, because spiritually you've been deceived, and so you're trying to deceive your body. But your physical body is literally letting you know, no, the Lord that made me was correct. What you're doing here, this is not okay, and I need to kick it out. And so these people, and it breaks my heart because they're so broken and depressed. Many of them are committing suicide because they've been in agony for years, y'all. We're not talking about surgery pain after a couple of weeks, you're good and you're ready to go. They're in pain for years. Their bodies rejecting these implants to make certain parts of their bodies bigger, if you will, or to remove parts of their bodies and make feminine parts of their bodies and shaping them. And they have to consistently shift and have different additional surgeries to fix what the body has rejected from the last surgery, or to fix what the body is trying to do to reconcile what's happening to it. You see what I'm saying? And so so many who have had this done to them are trying to tell you guys, hey, y'all, this is not okay. This is happening and we're in torment. Why are they not telling you about this? Why are they allowing kids to do this without explaining to them this is what literally the rest of your life is about to look like? And so even the folks who are having these reassignments are trying to warn people about it. And not even just the physical pain, but just the agony of what's happening inside of them when they're trying to do this. Yeah, the mental anguish, exactly. The anguish in the midst of their physical anguish. And not to mention the spiritual anguish, because they're deceived, they're being influenced by literal wickedness. So they have no peace. Like, you can look at these people and see the darkness in their eyes, the despair, the hopelessness in their eyes, because they don't see an end in sight. For some of them, because they removed their organs, unless there's a way to reattach that, some of them are not able to go to the bathroom without agony or even without assistance. They have catheters, like for them to be able to use the bathroom because of the surgery they had to make them a man. Some of them, it's just so many things, guys, that they're not telling these kids. So this is already way too long, per usual. I want to show you this thing with Mr. Miles Rutherford. He's a pastor. I believe he's in California. I really like him. He's really bold. He really goes there. He don't care about offending per se, but he's very passionate about the truth. And he was talking about Target. And many of you may have seen that Target is now they're selling clothing that is very gender. It's very trans targeted, encouraging trans acceptance, tucking, clothing for boys, little boys, that are one pieces where they can tuck their male organ to hide it if they want. You're talking about little kids, babies. They're like 1 year old, two, like those type of things. And also Target has also partnered with some influencer. He's a Luciferian. Just mind you, Target ain't never been. I'm going into all that, but they're showing you what the plan and the agenda is, and as soon, because what many of you will discover, many of our leadership are involved in this way of life. many people that we believe are women in leadership. I'm talking about in the media. They're not actually women. Many of them are trans. And so this is a very big agenda for the enemy. And you're going to also see the leadership coming forward. This is why feminism is pushed so hard. There is a push to keep people out of alignment with the original intent of the Lord. And so all of this works together. So I'm going to show you this real quick before I get off here. This is Miles Rutherford. He's showing this picture of, I hope you guys can see that. This is a collaboration with this guy. I think his name is ABP Rallenuk. I don't know if that's his whole name, but that's just how it's spelled. Promoting queer and trans rights in clothing for the children is what it says. Satan is not hiding, neither should the church. Raise your voice, our voice must be heard. It says Satan respects pronouns, but there were several other photos. So this is Target. This is the collaboration they have. You see this heart-shaped skeleton rib cage looking thing. It kind of reminds me of the hippo, the medical emblem, just slightly, but also at the same time, it also looks like a goat head at the very top, which the goat head is a nod to Lucifer. Anytime you see these celebrities with these goat heads, it's Baphomet. They're talking about it's Lucifer. We belong everywhere. Goes back to even that alien agenda. We're really talking about demons. This is all witchcraft. This is the pentagram. Bisexual witch is what it says here. He's in the occult. He's obviously some type of occult influencer. This moon, a lot of times there's moon worship. You see this here says trans witches for abortion, cure transphobia, not trans people. So what does that mean? There it is. I didn't even realize this is like the medical emblem, very close to it. You see the serpent that goes across this pole on your HIPAA stuff and on your medical, anything medical, it's the snake around this. We do know already pharmakia is witchcraft, but cure transphobia. That means anybody who is not in agreement with transphobia, cure those, which means wash those people clean of their resistance to being a trans person, by in the eyes of the Lord, just being obedient to the Lord. So what he's saying here basically is get rid of these people, not the trans people. Now, mind you, we're not trying to get rid of anybody, but what we are trying to do is speak truth and freedom and deliverance to these people who have been deceived into this Christ path and pursuit, whether they know it or not. Too queer for here. Again, back with the alien agenda, alien love. They're pushing the rainbow, which the rainbow is the Lord's, the first and foremost. Let's be very clear. But it's always perversion. Aliens, which is really demons, is UFO. You're queer, which is a play on being peculiar. Holiness. It's all perversion. It's all perversion. It's all just in a way, just a slap in the face to the Lord, if you could slap the Lord in the face. But it's all intended to pervert what the Lord originally created. And so wanted to bring that to your attention, just in reference to the children. Keep the kids in your prayers. Do not let up. Look at these games, y'all. These games have secret doors and rooms in them that a lot of your kids are playing, especially if they're playing things like Roblox. Several others. There is sites that are embedded into the games your kids are playing, and it's not a few of them, it's many of them. These shows your kids are watching, not even, and I'm just speaking to the kids, but I'm also speaking to you guys, the parents as well, because a lot of the stuff you're opening doors to They're trying to restart. Okay, so I'm gonna try to hurry. There we go. So sorry, my phone died real quick. I had to switch my connection, but it's all perversion. It's all geared towards your such an apathy towards these things that are actually influencing your kids and influencing your life, even the movies that you're watching, the music you're listening to, the media, the games you guys are playing, just the things that you are allowing into your sphere. And whether you realize it or not, you are opening doors to your soul. You're opening doors to your very life with these things. It's not innocent, and it's not something that you can just, well, I'll just pray it off. You can't watch shows full of occultism and think that you're not impacted by that because you love God. Like, you have to use wisdom, and you have to make those decisions to say, no, I'm not going to open up my gates. I'm not going to open up my ears. I'm not going to open up my being to this wickedness, and discern, because some things are not blatantly wicked. Some of the stuff is subliminal and it's underlying. My little girl was just watching a show the other day. It's called Get Squirrely, and for some reason she came and told me what it was about, and it's sure enough, it's very perverted. The show was called Get Squirrely, and it's about a squirrel chasing an acorn, or chasing people who were stealing acorns to make this cream for their butts. And so if you're thinking about squirrels and a nut, and I'm not trying to get vulgar, but just these underlying subliminal messages in these kids shows that are that are disgusting and perverted, that are introduced to desensitize your children. So by the time they get to a certain age, they're not aware of these influences happening. They're welcoming them. They're like, oh, that's cool. I saw that when I was, I recognize this because it trains your brain, basically. It trains your mind. It trains your mentality. It changes your pathologies. And they know this. They understand the psychology behind all of this. So open your eyes, people of God. Please recognize what's happening around you. That's the whole premise for the current wave. And so that you can know what's happening. I don't find it coincidental that the current wave probably gets the least amount of views out of anything I do. I don't know if they shadow banned. People barely see it. Even when I post, they're like, oh, I didn't even know that you went live. And I also know that a lot of times people don't like hearing about this because it forces you to be responsible with this information. You have to make decisions for your life that may shift your family, that people may not agree with or may not be okay with. I get it. But the Lord has given you and graced you for it. And if he's bringing it to your attention, it's because he is giving you the ability to make the necessary changes for your very life, for your very soul, y'all. I'm not exaggerating when I say for your very life and for your very soul. Again, we're talking about your children being taken from you for not agreeing with them becoming trans. I'm not talking about adults. I'm talking about your kids, no matter what age they are. If they come to you at 3 years old, say, I want to be a little boy, and you resist that, and somebody overhears you that's in support of the trans agenda, hears you saying, well, let's just wait on that. Maybe that's not, really how you feel. Let's wait till you get a little older. If they hear that, they can report you, and your child can be taken from you because you decided that you were not going to support this, even if it's just at that time. You're considered abusive and neglectful, and you're not giving gender affirming healthcare or allowing your child to receive gender affirming healthcare. So you're considered, it's medical neglect, and they can take your child. They can consider it a medical emergency and take your child from you. That's where we already are. So it's not far-fetched to say that it's life and death that we're moving towards. The Bible talks about the persecution. It's unto life and death. We're not talking about just social media persecution. We're talking about things being put into law to literally take your life, to remove you from this earth if it's against the agenda of the enemy, if it's against this antichrist plan that they have put into documentation, by the way, that you can go and look at for yourself. If you're against that, or if you're not okay with just control, if you're not okay with being told what you can and cannot do in your household, things like that, you're considered a threat to the establishment. So I just want to bring that to your attention. Again, that's the purpose of the current wave. This is what's happening now. Open your eyes, pay attention, keep your children in prayer, and keep those who are lobbying for the things of the Lord, those who are standing for the truth and the standard of the Lord to prevail. Keep them in prayer as well, because it's not easy. There's not as many who are standing against the status quo that aren't, and so there's a lot of weight that comes with that. There's attacks, there's just fear sometimes, there's just there's a lot that comes with that. So keep them in your prayers as well, because they're the ones that are really going to bat for you, because many of you are fearful to do it. So there are people who are going for you on your behalf to make sure that the standard of the Lord remains in place. The Lord will always have a remnant, but let's recognize the times we're in. Let's recognize where we're going, and let's recognize the action that we must take. We can't be passive about this anymore. Passivity is why we are where we are so quickly. Being passive is why we're where we are. You literally have stores that are affirming your child, your baby, encouraging your child to tuck their organs, to be able to tuck their God ordained organs, to hide them if they feel like they're not a male. And so, yeah, that's where we are. Anyway, I love you guys. I wanted to come. This was supposed to be short, but we already know how that goes. Hope you guys are having a great start to your week. I know this is a little heavy, which is typically the current wave theme, it seems. But Wednesday, we will be going live. We'll be praying, worshiping, some teaching, if that's what the Lord wants, Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget, we do have Go Glory, which is this Friday evening. It will be live. It will be on the Go Glory page. Midweek Glory, which is Wednesday, what I was just referring to, is also going to be on the Go Glory page on Facebook. So make sure you go and find that. I was trying to see if I had a flyer of that on here. I don't. It's on my other folder. But yeah, so we will be praying. Bring your prayer requests. Come in ready to pursue and inquire of the Lord. We may even do a little bit of some Bible study. Yeah, but yeah, it's time. It's time, people of God. It's time. All right. I love you. If you have any questions or requests or things that you want discussed on the current wave, please email me at thisisthecurrentwave@gmail.com. Again, it's thisisthecurrentwave@gmail.com. And I would love to see what you guys want to have discussed, and we can do that. So y'all have a great rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon.